career. Personally, I'm a mom of two. I like to talk about my babies. We're going to talk about pregnancy loss. So I have to talk about the two living pregnancies or two babies that I have. I'm married and I'm from Jamaica, but I live in Delaware. Last year, probably year before last, I started my own coaching business where I am focusing on, of course, grief and loss. I like to focus on things that people don't feel comfortable talking about. Of course, death and loss is not the most comfortable topic, but I delve further by talking about the disenfranchised losses, such as the pregnancy losses, loss of friendship, loss of a career, lots of things that are non-death related. I can be found on Bereavement and Beyond on all platforms, well, major platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I have a YouTube page. And I recently started a podcast where I invite people on my show to talk about their stories of loss because I can sit here and tell somebody's story, but it doesn't have the same impact that it would if someone else told it. So that's what I'm working on. Passionate about caregiving. I have a whole program geared towards caregiver because, of course, that's something that people don't really, I don't want to say they don't pay attention to, but more attention could be paid to what caregivers undergo. And I like to focus on the on faith-based populations. So I have a program where I meet with pastors and other clergy persons to help them to talk about their experiences as caregivers, as well as provide them with tools so that they'll be able to support their congregation.
You're keeping quite busy, so that sounds like something you're
Mhm.
very, very passionate about. Take us from
And
the very beginning. When you experienced your pregnancy loss, how was it building up to that point in your life?
so growing up, again, I'm from Jamaica, and a lot of us can relate to this. We were told to get an education, and from there you get married, you should get a job, the house, the car, a dog, a cat, a fish, and the white picket fence, that kind of a thing. And for the most part, I did everything sort of in that order, except the married part. But that's a whole different story. Anyhow, I got pregnant in 2015 and was pretty excited. It was our first pregnancy and took the vitamins. Anybody who knows me know I am not compliant with my vitamins. I'll take them today, expect a miracle, and when I don't see the miracle, I stop. But I did everything the way I was expected to, and the pregnancy did not manifest. And that kept happening year after year. When I say year after year, I had a pregnancy loss 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. In 2019, I lost kids. And I deliberately pushed it to the back of my mind. And I had an issue when I sought medical care because I had to relive this moment. Because the first thing they're going to ask you is about your history. And I'm like, listen, before you ask, I've had several miscarriages, lost 8 kids. Do not ask me anymore because I don't see how it's going to be relevant. That's the point I got to. So I had pregnancy losses from 2015 to 2019 with some years where there were two. And it was a very painful journey. I'm from the place where you don't share that you're pregnant until you're 3 months in. So much of that I endured alone. Of course, my boyfriend turned husband after a while was there, but I really did felt alone and pretty much went through the experience. Good at asking for support, but at the end of the day, sometimes people say things that makes the situation even worse. So from that, I decided to pay some attention in terms of my focus in my business to women who may have faced a similar situation but didn't have the support that I didn't have. And that's one of the reasons I also am certified in perinatal bereavement, so I can support families and individuals and couples who've had a similar journey. And I also focus on perinatal mood and anxiety disorders because I self-diagnosed. Again, I am a licensed clinician. It's nothing official, but from what I know, I experienced a little bit of postpartum depression there. So it was a lonely journey, but through it all, I believe that I endured that journey to be able to where I am. I don't think I would have been the mom that I am now or the person I am now if I didn't experience those losses. And bear in mind, going through it was painful. And I'm like, God, did you really think you have to teach me this lesson this way? But in hindsight, I think that's a yes, because experience teaches wisdom. And I believe we go through what we go through, of course, for ourselves, but to be better able to serve others who are in a similar position but may not have the voice or the support.
That is a lot to go through. The multiple miscarriages and pregnancy loss.
Oh, yeah.
When you went through the first one,
Mhm.
what was your state of mind at that point, if you can remember?
Befuddled, bewildered, and just lost. Like I said, I did everything right. I finished my master's degree, had a good job, you know, just lost. Like, what did I do? What did I not do? And that's another thing. The blame was there. Nobody blamed me, but I felt like I was failing myself. This is what I'm supposed to do naturally, and I was not able to do it. So in a sense, I felt like I failed myself and that my body failed me, and I just was lacking as a woman. So confused, bewildered, lost, angry. I could go on and on. It was a rough time mentally. And like I said, because it happened back to back, I believe that it was compounded. And so when I had my kids, some of that stemmed over into how I, was feeling at the time. So it was a spider web of emotions with just things going everywhere. And sometimes I was unable to put a word to it or to articulate how I felt, because it was just one of those times when I was speechless. And probably you can tell that I'm hardly speechless when it comes on to talking about grief. But yeah, I was speechless and just lost and confused and angry. That was a major emotion.
The first time I came in contact with someone that their partner had a miscarriage was this married couple I used to work with many years ago, and he lost it was a son. It was actually born and then
Mhm.
it passed away in the
Wow.
hospital. And he shared how painful that was. And he shared that for years, him and his wife were so hesitant to even try to have another
Hmm.
child. And I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but I know before we changed apartments, he didn't have any children. So it stayed with the both of them for that long. You continue to try. Where did you find the courage to continue to pursue having children?
I don't know if it's courage. I told people I was probably just crazy. I don't know if it was courage. And that's one of the questions where I don't have the answer to. But I knew back then that I really, and I want to tell you something, Terry, and I didn't want children before I met my boyfriend or husband. I was okay with a cat and just being on my own and studying and traveling. But when I met him, we started to talk about family. And when you get to, I was about 29 at that time, you start to see others around you going in that path. I started to think a little bit differently. Right. So again, I don't know if it was courage, but and going into my medical history, the doctor said I did not have a problem getting pregnant. So it was a pretty easy process. I know a lot of people have difficulties with infertility. That wasn't my case. I was very fertile. I just was unable to keep a pregnancy until they found out what the issue was, allegedly. So again, it wasn't courage. Looking back, it probably was, but going through it, it certainly didn't feel that way. I just knew that I wanted a child, my husband wanted children, so we just kept going. And I think we used, it's a PG-13, PG-21 show, right? I think we use sex as a way to, because I just moved from Jamaica. We pretty much had each other. So that was like something we used to stay connected and as a coping mechanism, if you will. So that's it. With me being fertile, us using that to cope, to try and stay connected because it was rough, I kept getting pregnant. And I gave up at some point in time, but didn't really take the cautionary measures I needed to, because a part of me was still hoping, and a part of me was trying to make peace with, okay, if it didn't happen, it would be fine. So that was that. I just kept trying because I just kept trying.
Oh, I'm saying it's courage because I don't have any children myself, and when it comes to having one, I'm like, whew, I don't know.
Yeah, I have a friend who she had one miscarriage, and I know of several other people. One miscarriage was enough for them to say, listen, let's go tie some tubes and do something permanent. So, yeah, in hindsight, it was courage, but again, going through it, it didn't feel that way because it was really lonely and it was really scary and it was really, really painful and expensive.
When women come to speak about their experiences, or even families, men, women, whomever, speak to, what are some of the struggles that they're sharing when it comes to the effort of trying again, especially after loss?
The fear of it happening again. The fear of it happening again, because in the early part of pregnancy, they just chalk it up to natural occurrences. I don't remember the statistics offhand, but it just happens. And so going into wanting a family with that in mind and a miscarriage under your belt, especially if it's multiple, it messes with your mind. And I can speak personally to this, and this is what people share. So I'm going to use myself as an example. It's seven. So every time I get to a certain month or stage or date leading up to it is very anxiety provoking. And then there's a sense of relief for a little bit when the day passes, and then leading up to another milestone or a loss, then it starts to build up again. So there, in essence, is no peace. So I didn't really enjoy any of my pregnancies. Pregnancies, I'll tell everybody, was a horrible experience for me. And this is something that comes out when I speak to people who have had a similar experience. So there's just this underlying fear and anxiety, and it really dampens the whole experience, which is supposed to be a joyful one.
How do you help them to get through those moments that might be viewed as darker moments or less fortunate?
I just allow them room to talk. It's a very taboo topic. And even us as therapists who are trained, many of us aren't able to allow people the space to just be and speak freely. Because we are trained. We don't tell people how to fix their problems, but we are trained to help them to problem solve. And we know that grief and of course pregnancy loss isn't something to fix. So I really just sit there and hold space for them. um, I, of course, would provide some couples therapy if it's a couple who is in front of me. But for the most part, it's usually the female who is there. So I just allow her to share her story. There's some amount of disclosure, which is a tricky thing in the therapy world, but in the grief world, it's a whole different thing. So some amount of my story and just looking on to see how I stuck it through, so to speak, kind of give them hope. So just really providing a safe space for them, tools to help them cope when they feel anxious, because we can't deny or ignore that feelings of anxiety and depression will come up. So this is where my therapy hat goes on. So I'd help them to, focus on techniques that will help them to relax. So the breath work, the muscle relaxation, the journaling, just seeking help, going to support groups, talking about it. There's a lot of cognitive distortion going on. So the all or nothing thinking, or the black and white thinking, or the catastrophizing. And I understand why these things would come about, again, because I've lived it. So I just have them to find tools to balance out some of these thinking. So I'll never tell somebody to not think this way. They're a human being, they have their experience, so they're gonna feel this way, rightfully so. So I try to balance it out. Okay, this is how you feel. Let's see how we can kind of balance it out. So for every one quote unquote unpleasant thought you have, let us try and create two pleasant thoughts. So it gives them some amount of balance while also giving them permission to feel the way they feel. So I strive for balance, share a little bit of my experience, and people really just want the space to talk about their experiences. And of course, if anything is out of my scope, or if I know about any resources, I would refer them there for, further consultation.
Yeah, I'm so glad you highlight that, especially creating the safe space for them and letting them feel what they feel. One of my
Yeah.
good friends, husband and wife, they were trying for years to have a child, and they had their first child at 44, I believe, 45.
Wow.
Um, and the doctor always say that every time they would try, something would happen, and then it came down to they had to make a lifestyle shift,
Hmm.
right? From the way that they're behaving, from the way that they're operating, even from the way that they're eating. And I remember one
Yeah.
day, Simone, they asked me, they're like, Train, what's your diet? I was like, well, I don't eat meat, just
Mhm.
seafood and a lot of vegetables. They did that for a
Mhm.
year, got pregnant.
Listen, and if I can interject, I love stew peas, which is a stew that has red kidney beans in it and three different types of meat. Like anything less than that, I don't want it. So I went to a doctor in Brooklyn and he was like, "Yeah, you Jamaicans, you have to give up the stew peas." So I just closed my ears right there and then. And I kept having the miscarriages, and then it came back to me, and I started to research the keto diets. And I'm like, man, it's about five miscarriages by this. What's the worst that can happen? So, in anything I do extensive research before I jump into it and preparation, because that's it with a lot of people at lifestyle changes. The thought is there, but we don't prepare. So, I bought all the ingredients I need and get rid of the things I shouldn't have. And I did make a change, and that's when I got pregnant with twins. They didn't make it, but that is a whole different story. I went up to 19 weeks, but then I had PRAM, which is a premature something rupture of membrane, and one of the twin died, and the other one was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But a lifestyle change in terms of diet and not a medical doctor or anything. So that's what worked for me. For other persons, they may choose to do something else based on their doctor's advice and it worked for them. So yes, the lifestyle change and it forces you to really look at yourself and what you're doing. Because prior to that, I was just eating and doing whatever I will or wanted to at the time. So I did make some changes and I saw results from that. So since I had that in mind, I went ahead and in addition to the knowledge that I need to have a cerclage whenever time I'm pregnant to have a successful pregnancy, which is pretty much stitching up your cervix. Otherwise, the baby will fall out. That's what they said. So, in addition to that and the dieting, that's how I went on to having two healthy pregnancies, my two daughters today. So, yeah, to your point and to your friend's experience, changing your diet and your lifestyle can for some make a difference. It did for me.
Yeah, I agree. And the doctor, to your point, the doctor was telling them the same thing because they're Filipino, so they're eating like pig and all this other stuff, right? But where a lot of
Yeah.
people eat a
Yeah.
lot of fried foods, right?
Oh,
And they
yeah.
just said that, okay, let me try what my doctor is saying, and then they asked me, and I gave them, and then they had its beautiful daughter now.
Mm.
They only want the one, so I'm pretty sure they've probably gone back to eating what they're eating before, but I can see the joy and the happiness that they had. They're like, yes, finally we made it
Yeah.
together. When you and your part and your spouse got together and you finally had the children, what was that feeling like?
Oh, Lord have mercy. It was, again, speechless. Two baby girls, they came back to back. They're less than a year apart. So it was right behind each other. So it was, one's name is Abigail, which is pride and joy. And the other one is Annabelle. I don't remember what that means right this minute, but it has a meaning behind it. We were purposeful in choosing their name, but they brought us such immense joy. And I want to tell you, Taryn, that we kept it under wraps, right? My brothers told me that I could join the CIA. My daughter's birthday is August 7, and they found out about her on August 7. And I think today some people still don't know that I have kids because it was such a rough journey that we chose to kind of keep most of it to ourselves. We did a lot of praying, we did a lot of fasting. I know we were covered by family and friends. My grandmother was alive at the time and she was a praying woman. So I know we were lifted up, to God. But it was a very happy moment for us when they came on this earth and they still bring us joy. Like they're friend fans, so they have their different stages that they go through. I tell somebody, listen, I appreciate each stage. I am not gonna kid you and say enjoy every stage because they are trying to find their own and they're very lippy. But there hasn't been a moment where that joy subsided. Just looking at them sometimes and laying in bed sometimes and just looking at the things that they do and say. That joy from day one, it's still there. And I think it always will be there. And even though I was going through postpartum depression, I don't know if I made a promise out loud or I was bargaining with God, but the things that would probably upset another parent just doesn't bother me. Because I remember there were times when I was just hoping to hear a child crying in the background. I was just hoping for somebody to make a mess in my house. So those things don't bother me. They'll cry and I just see that they're not dying or something is wrong and I just leave them, right? Or if the house is messy, so what? I teach them to be responsible. You make it messy, you clean it up. So I think the journey has made me a very chill and laid back mom, but also firm because, sometimes we can overcompensate and, go overboard. So I still am very firm as a parent, but very relaxed because I'm so appreciative of what I have now. But it was pure joy on August 7th, and then July 28th, it's still fresh in my mind.
I love hearing that, and I'm glad that it was such a joyous moment, right? Because some people be like to your point earlier, some people are like, okay, one didn't make it, I'm done. Tubes tied, no more of this.
Mm,
But you're going. God is good. It worked out.
yeah. Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
such a blessing when you look at your two daughters. When you and your husband look at your two daughters, and it's a reminder of how beautiful this journey is. What is maybe one of your favorite memories of your children, especially as they were younger growing up?
Mm. What is my favorite memory? That is so hard because they do stuff pretty much every day that just blows my mind and blows me over. So growing up, I can't think of one right now, but my kids, especially the younger one, she will ask you some stuff that just luckily I'm one of those people who will say, listen, I don't know, I will go check it out. But both of them came in my room the other day. I think they're too young to know what I do. They have some idea, but they were asking me about death. And even though I am a grief counselor and a grief coach, and this is all I talk about, I was stumped for a minute because they were like, "Yeah, family will we be if you die?" I'm like, Lord, where are they going with this? But I said, you'll still be a family, you'll have your sister and your dad. Okay, so if dad dies, what kind of family will we be? Went over the explanation again. And they're like, so what if both of you die? I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why are they asking me this? But I kept my cool and I'm like, if we die, then you'll have your aunt and your grandma. And I went through the whole thing. And they're like, I want to live with Auntie Veron, which is my best friend because she has a dog. Right. So for some, this would have been a scary conversation, but I welcomed it and I keep telling people about it since we had a conversation because it just amazes me at how smart they are. And it's moments like these that bowls me over. I know there are many because they're always coming with something, but this is the most recent one. They're very inquisitive, for want of a better word, and they're gonna ask the thing and I answer the thing. So just looking at who they are becoming and how I can shape them into who they are becoming, it just again brings me immense joy. So just moments like those where they feel safe enough to ask questions and they know that mommy will probably freak out in her mind, but externally, she's going to have my back. I tell them, listen, don't lie to mommy, tell mommy everything. We can get through it. It's when you lie or hide things that we may have an issue there. So I'm just happy that they feel safe enough to have these conversations with me. So that may not be a pretty explanation, but that is what I just admire about them. And it's a favorite memory of mine, just them being safe enough to ask me these questions because it shows that trust is there.
I think that's actually a beautiful answer because, to your point, the trust is there and it's being built between the
Yeah.
four of you. When it comes
Hmm.
to men and women who are being assisted through loss, whether it's pregnancy, a family member, a friend, whomever, even loss of identity, what do
Hmm.
you think are what do you think that people in general would need more of, either relating back to your own experience or for those you help with?
Yeah, support. And by support, I look at support as a two-prong thing, right? On the one hand, we should be able to ask for support. And I say that with caution because it depends on where you are in your journey, right? So I wasn't able to articulate what I needed in the beginning, but as time goes by, I was able to say, hey, drop me a line, check on me, whatever I need, I will just say it, right? And on the other hand, they need support from those around them. And when I say support, it's not just emotional, it's sometimes practical support because there were times when I just didn't have the energy to cook and would like somebody to bring me a meal. When I had the kids, it wasn't practical because we just moved to Delaware. We didn't know anybody. But for those people who are out there who have family or friends around them, support, I believe, would be what would carry them through on a practical level, on an emotional level. But the thing about it is, it's something that we are learning together, and a lot of patience and a lot of grace is what is needed because, again, grief is a tricky thing. So sometimes you will say something and in your mind you are providing support, but you will actually say something to make the person feel worse. And this is how a lot of friendships and family relationships become even, more ruptured. So support is needed, but it's something that is a two-way thing that we're learning. And again, practical support and emotional support, I would say that's the big thing. So to those out there who are trying, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you can't say it, text it. If you can text it, email it. But it's not a journey that you were meant to walk alone. Some of us walked the journey and we made it out barely alive. But if you have the support, tap into that. And for those around, people who need the immediate support, if you're not sure what to say that. Say, hey, I want to be here for you. Don't know what to say. Let me just sit with you. Drop some food at the door in a disposable container so they don't have to think about go washing dishes. If the person has a dog, go walk the dog. If they have living kids, take the kid out for a break. But support, I would say, is the number one thing that people who are in this situation would need. And I am a Christian person, so lots of prayers. I believe prayers move mountains. We may not get the answers that we need, but like for me, I'm now able to say that despite the miscarriages we went through, I don't think that my husband and I were ready to be parents at the time. And that was a hard reality to sit with. I think when we finally had our kids in 2020 and 2021, we were at that point at a couple, um, and we were learning who we were as individuals. We're at that point where we were not able to raise healthy children. Prior to that, we were experiencing some turbulent times, adjusting to a new country. So in hindsight, again, it was painful to think this, but I believe we probably would have did those kids more harm than good. It's probably a contentious discussion. People may be hearing that and saying something else, but this is just my reality and how I feel about it. But I believe everything happens when they're supposed to happen. So the prayers and the supports are two main things. There are many things, but those are the two main things I believe people in similar situations can definitely benefit from.
And that is something that you hear within the grief community a lot, is that I wish I had the community when I
Yeah.
first went through it. It seems that so many people who are suffering, especially when it's new, let's say within the first 6 months, it
Hmm.
seems that the people that they thought they could go to ended up being the wrong people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And they had to learn the hard way. Do you see that fear of going to the wrong person impacting people when they're looking for the support that you described?
Yes, because who wants to go to somebody they trust for help and they say something, I don't want to say foolish, because in my heart of hearts, I would like to believe that what they're saying is coming from a good place. They just don't have it's something that people don't like to talk about. They don't have the language for it. They too are uncomfortable facing their own mortality and may have been dealing in the quiet with their own losses. So I want to believe that some of these responses are coming from a good place. But it's very disheartening to go to somebody you trust for help and to hear mean comments, for want of a better term. So community is very important. But like I said earlier, that is something that we have to build intentionally. So I use my experience and platform to educate people. So what I went through, I have a resource. It's called 52 Ways to Support People Who Are Grieving. And again, I focus on emotional and practical and how to support them during anniversaries because these are some things that people don't think about. Yes, my children didn't live, but I still think about them on the day that they pass or on their due dates, right? So community is important. It's something we have to foster. In hindsight, I would say after things have calmed down a little bit, I went back to people who said things to me that hurt me a little bit, and I told them how I felt, and we sat and have a conversation around it. So I'm grateful that I have people in my space who are receptive and are willing to learn and do better in the event that they encounter somebody in a similar situation. It doesn't have to be pregnancy loss, but a loss nonetheless. These are things that we can probably say or not say or be mindful of. But it is a very tough thing too. And I got it from some people around me and in the medical space because some of the things I remember, there was this doctor, won't name the facility, but when I was crying and she asked me what happened, and I told her, and she's like, "How old are you?" And I told her, you can't have more kids. Again, I literally just found out that I'm actively going through a miscarriage 2 minutes ago, and that is what you had to say to me as a medical practitioner. And not only that, I was left to it's a very big hospital, and I had to walk by myself from where I was to the ER alone, unaccompanied. They don't know what state of mind I was in. I could easily walk out into traffic or hurt somebody or myself. So these are some of the things. So the lack of support came from that space as well as in some personal aspects. But again, I want to believe that they just did not have the tools or the education. And the truth is, Terrain, some people we talk about empathy, and we know it's not always an easy thing to exercise. Some people really and truly cannot put themselves into somebody else's shoe. They have to live it for them to be able to relate to it. And again, I'm saying this because I'm on the other end, but going through it and hearing some of those things was very painful. So again, I use my voice and my platform to help people around me to be able to have language or no language. Because again, if you don't know or you don't have the capacity, that is okay. But instead of saying harmful things, here is what I can do or cannot do.
I think that is so hard for people to acknowledge is that you can go to someone and you think that they're
Mhm.
empathetic, but once you open your mouth, you're like, oh Lord, why did I go
Well,
to this person? They
yep.
just made everything
Mhm.
worse,
The
right?
work.
So
Mhm.
I think people struggle with that because initially, when we're going to the first time I experienced grief, I'll use myself as an example. The first couple of people I went to were the people closest to me in proximity,
Right.
right? And then I realized I was like, oh, I can't. If I experience grief again, I can't go to these people. So the second time was when my grandmother passed away, and she's someone that
Mm.
raised me.
Yeah.
So I went to the people instead of it just being the closest to me or the ones who pick up the phone. It was when I'm in a situation, who do I go to when I need guidance or assistance? I went to
Mhm.
those people, and the two experiences were totally different. The people I went to the first time, I didn't even tell them. They found out, I think, through like Facebook when I did
Mhm.
a appreciation post. They're like, "Oh, your grandmother
Yeah.
passed away. How come you didn't tell us?" A part of me wanted to say, "You remember when?"
Right, right. And God forbid it's a non-death related loss. People are gonna say things that are really hurtful. Oh, so why are you mourning that friendship? You're the one who chose to leave the friendship and the person is still alive, but it's still a loss. So God forbid it's a non-death related loss, you're gonna hear some of the things that you experience and then some.
Exactly, exactly, right. But I raise that to highlight that don't feel people shouldn't feel an obligation to go to specific people. Go to the people that's going to
Mhm.
give you support. Do you see
Support you.
people
Yeah.
struggling with that where they go to people because they feel that they have to tell them, even though they may not be the best person to tell?
Yes, because again, it's your community, your immediate community, and a part of you want them to support you because they're in close proximity, but they may not be the best person to support you for obvious reasons. So it is a struggle. And so you may have had the bandwidth to reach out to, well, they reached out to you, but some people may have the bandwidth to reach out to other people, whereas some people are just going to suffer in silence because they're going to say, if my mother, my sister, my friend respond to me this way, why would a stranger or somebody I don't know empathize with me or treat me any differently? So some people just suffer in silence because they feel like there is no support out there.
Take us through bereavement and beyond. What's the
Yes.
goal and how important is that for you to reach as many people as possible?
My goal is to inform and create awareness, especially, like I said, around non-death related loss. Because again, people suffer in silence because sometimes they don't even realize that they're going through a loss. Case in point, I'm very big on talking about anticipatory grief. And I was talking to, because I do hair as well, that's my main job actually. And I was doing these two ladies here, and their moms were both diagnosed with dementia, and they were talking and talking and talking, and they did not realize they were experiencing a loss. So I use Bereavement and Beyond's voice to educate and create awareness. And that is very important to me because if we don't know, we can't fix it, right? Let me be mad at you because you knew and you chose to do differently versus being ignorant about something and you just didn't know any better. So I want this space to not only inform and create awareness, I want to train people. That's my long-term goal, to not do it alone, but to train people and support people so that they can support others in their space. So that is why, yes, I can target people who are grieving, but I like to target the leaders. So, case in point, the experience at the hospital, I would love to talk to management and the nurses, not necessarily the patient. Yes, I would love to talk to the patient, but the nurses and the doctors are who the patients are going to interact with. In the churches, a lot of people put pastors on a pedestal. They can't do no wrong, but they have their own mindset of what grief is. So if I can speak to the pastors, then it will make those who are actually going through grief, a little bit less lonely. They can navigate it more because they now have support from people they look up to. So that is where I see bereavement and beyond going, educating, creating awareness, and supporting caregivers. And not when I say caregivers, not only people who are caring for people who are ill, but those who are in charge, pastors, nurses, community leaders, so that we can have that ripple effect. And who knows, a few years down the line, we may feel more comfortable just talking about grief and supporting people who are grieving.
What is the Swiss cheese method?
Yeah, so I have I like to pull tools from different disciplines and make them grief adaptive. Guess what my video will be on this week? This is true, the Swiss cheese method. So it's so funny you mentioned that. I've done the Eisenhower matrix, Pomodoro technique, the rain method, the Swiss cheese. So theories from business and just make them grief adaptive. So just one thing at a time. Poke one hole in it. And then before you know it, everybody will get a little bite of that little piece of cheese.
And that's everyone that we keep around us, I'm guessing.
Pardon me?
And that's the people we keep around us who get the bite.
Yes, of course, because why would you want somebody in your circle who's going to make what you're going through more painful? And the reality is, when you're going through losses, whether it's pregnancy loss, you will lose people around you. You will lose some people around you. Not to say that some things aren't repairable, but some relationships, family relationships and friendships just disappear for different reasons. And those, like you said, who you thought wouldn't have been there for you and wouldn't understand, you find now that they're a part of your circle. So a lot of changes. And of course, you're going to grieve the people you no longer have in your circle because they've been a part of your circle for a while. So it's just always compound loss, and secondary loss is just always there. This is the main loss, but from that, you have this loss and that loss. So your circle will change and look differently as you go through grief. And it's usually surprising to see the people in your circle. and surprising to see the people who exit your circle.
I wonder if that's why many of us who are grieving, many people who grieve, keep to themselves because when you're losing, let's say you lose a person, and if you go to
Mhm.
other people and now you're not getting support, you're losing that friend, you're compounding your grief versus if I just keep it all in, it's just one
Yeah,
and done.
yeah, the fear is there, but you're still grieving inside. The person is still there, they're of no use, so to speak. So you are carrying that loss. It's just that the person is still there while you are still, I guess, grieving. They're physically there, but you can't relate to them. You can't talk to them. So you've, in essence, lost them. It's just that they're still there in your space, but they're already gone, and you're now suffering in silence.
Yeah, because you're just ignoring it, even though you know that the relationship is over.
Yeah, yep. And those things eat you up from inside. Your cortisol level and everything will just, and if you're anything like me and you're in my space and I don't like you anymore, I feel it. So I feel everything. Like my everything will just start bubbling up. So that's why I'm the kind of person where if I have an issue with someone, I prefer to have a dialogue about it. I'll at least give them the opportunity to kind of redeem themselves. And if it's not working, it's just not working because for me, you're taking up room and blocking somebody else's opportunity that may be able to support me better. And like I said, sometimes it's no hard feeling. And as people grow and change, they may come back in my circle. Things may not look the same, but for the most part, I don't close a door permanently. There are some doors that really need to be closed permanently, but that's for different reasons. But in a case when it comes down to grief, people grow. And like I said, when they too experience a similar loss, if they're humble enough, they'll come back and say, hey, remember when, and this is how I, and then the conversation can be had and it may draw you closer. But a lot of people suffer in fear and silence, but that doesn't mean you still aren't going through the loss. It's just that you're doing it alone while the person is still around.
You mentioned anticipatory grief, and what I want to
Yeah.
do, Simone, is I want to ask you one
Mhm.
final question regarding that, but I want to give you
Yeah.
three wishes for that. What are three things you wish people knew about anticipatory grief and why?
Mhm. Oh, anticipatory grief. I call it a living loss because you are grieving something or someone who is still there and it is valid. So that's one wish. People, I wish people would know that. The second wish is that what would be my second wish? That's a tough question. One I would have to ponder. Let me think about it for a second. So I wish people would know that some of the feelings that come up during anticipatory grief may not be socially acceptable. And I can cite an example. Somebody I knew, her mom finally passed, and she was happy. She said that she was happy her mom died. And prior to her mom dying, she wished her mom would just die. And it's not coming from a place of hate. She was just tired of seeing her mom suffer and she was losing herself and her routine and other stuff. So I wish that people would realize that even though some of the emotions that come with anticipatory grief may sound taboo and evil and harsh, it may not necessarily be so. And even if they feel this way, give them the room to talk more about it and then you'll understand what they really mean. Because she really didn't want her mom to die. She was just tired of seeing her mom not being able to eat and being on tubes and all of that. And the third wish, I don't know what my third wish would be. Um, when it comes down to anticipatory grief, I believe that the support is lacking, right? So you see, and of course, death related loss is valid, but I wish that there was more support for people going through anticipatory grief because when I talk to people who are experiencing anticipatory grief, the programs and the support they are few and far between, and a lot of people are living with this type of loss. So I wish there was more attention and more support, being paid towards anticipatory grief because they're caregivers. And as cliche as it sounds, we really can't pour from an empty cup. So if we pour into the caregivers and those and experiencing anticipatory grief, they will be better able to support those who they are caring for. And even if it's not caring for somebody, say for instance, somebody's going through a divorce, which is anticipatory grief, give them the space and the tools that they need just the same so that they can navigate their way easier or a little bit better through this process. So I wish there was more attention paid to anticipatory grief because it's a real thing and people are living with losses that haven't fully happened as yet. But just waiting for it to happen is very